Hello, and welcome to the Actuary podcast, produced on behalf of the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries, the IFOA. I'm John Watkins, a financial journalist, and as always, your podcast host. This is the 8th episode of the Actuary podcast, so if you're enjoying what we do, a reminder to please subscribe to our YouTube channel, as well as these podcasts. You can also find there the Actuary's series of informative videos. So, in this episode, we're meeting Helen Margetts, a professor of the internet, Tom Kenny, an actuary with an interest in social care, and Catherine Townsend, an award-winning pricing actuary. First up, we've got internet expert Helen Margetts dialing in to speak to us. She was recently interviewed in the Actuary's November-December issue and is joining us now to talk a bit more about her role as a professor of the internet. Helen, thank you so much for joining us. I'd like to start by taking you back to 2001, if I may, when Oxford University set up the Oxford Internet Institute. You were one of the founding academics there, and you say in your interview with us in the magazine that it was a very brave and innovative thing to do at the time. What was it like being part of such an emerging field? Was it a challenge to have the internet taken seriously at that time? And why really was it a brave decision to do that?
Well, it's unusual because the Oxford Internet Institute is a new department at a very old university, i.e., the University of Oxford. And also, it was set up to look at a thing like a new technology, the internet. And most academic departments are based around academic disciplines like sociology or economics in the social sciences, or mathematics, computer science, biology, and so on. Um, and to look at a thing like the internet, it's really a kind of completely multidisciplinary phenomenon. So it needs looking at from all sorts of angles, from technical angles, from the impact on society, the impact on the economy, the impact on politics and democracy, which is my area. So that's a lot going on in one academic department. And that's why I said it was a brave thing to do for the university, because 2001 was very early on in the evolution of the internet. Widespread use of the internet really only emerged at the very end of the previous century. So yeah, it was a difficult thing to do.
You mentioned there that it was still very much the early days of widespread use of the internet. Did you have a sense at that time of just how big this thing would scale and how big an influence it would become on our lives?
Well, yes, I think so, because um, there was a lot of excitement about the internet in those days, um, partly because of its capability to sort of bring people together, to connect people, literally, in ways that they hadn't been connected before, for people to kind of find each other, whether it be their history or like-minded people all over the globe, or people who want to campaign for or against something. That's one of the reasons why I was excited about it. And also because once people are carrying out their daily lives in online settings, they're generating huge amounts of data, so-called big data. That's what it was called from the 2010s onwards. And that gives new ways of looking at society and the economy and political behavior and so on. And as a social scientist myself, I was very excited about that as well, because it completely changed some of the ways that we could think about doing social science. So I think I did have a feeling of it as something very exciting and kind of big. Uh, Obviously, in the more recent years, we've been brutally exposed to all sorts of negative forms of activity online. And that receives a lot of the attention these days. I've retained some of that original excitement, I think. I still I still, whenever I talk about it, like to remind people of some of the positive things about the internet. And if you look back to your life before, the internet, then, I think it's better because of the internet. And we shouldn't lose sight of that even as we work out ways to deal with pathologies like online harms and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Your job title at the institute is Professor of Society and the Internet. Tell us a bit about the kind of research that you do.
Well, I'm a political scientist, so I look at government, I look at the implications of the internet and related technologies to the shape of government, the function of government, public services, communication between citizens and governments. Those are the kind of things I look at. I also look at political behavior, and I wrote a book called Political Turbulence: How Social Media Shape Collective Action, um, which is one of those books that you don't really need to read because it's all in the title. As the title suggests, it looks at political participation, political behavior, collective action online, and it was written in 2016. So it looks at those kind of, perhaps the earlier days of enthusiasm about what the internet would bring to political life. So what I do has widened out a bit. For example, I have a new research project. This one's in Oxford, just started, which is looking at artificial intelligence and dehumanization, thinking about how our sustained interaction with AI uh, changes our perceptions of people. Do we treat people less like humans because we spend so much time interacting with machines, or do we or do we judge humans more harshly? After all, if you go and see your doctor, they've probably got 10 minutes for you, but uh, ChatGPT's got all day to chat about your health concerns. So, will we start to judge various sorts of humans and various sorts of professionals more sternly than we have before? These are very interesting and important questions.
Yeah, absolutely. The internet has been sort of in common use for about 4 decades now. You touched upon, you feel that we're better off overall for it. In your view, what have been the main ways in which it's shaped us in that time that it's been around?
Well, I think as I said, it connects people, and there are all sorts of implications of that. I mean, it's also given us a sense of being able to do everything straight away, um, and that changes everybody's daily and working lives. I mean, if you buy something, you expect to get it very soon. You expect to be able to look at all the options online. If you expect to be able to check your bank balance as long as it takes you to have your phone recognize your face. I mean, there are so many ways in which it's speeded up daily life, which is good in a way because there are all sorts of transaction costs of daily life that we don't experience anymore. But also, of course, it arguably makes life more kind of stressful than it was before. It's a very fast moving area, and I don't think you could possibly kind of summarize what the impact of the internet has been, partly because you have no thought experiment. You don't know. It would be a thought experiment. I mean, what would life have been like if we hadn't had it? We don't know, because almost every population in the world has been substantively shaped by internet-based activity. So um, we don't know. But everything that I'm saying about the internet also applies to these new generations of technology, such as artificial intelligence. And we're in the foothills of being able to understand how that's shaping society because we haven't had it very long.
Right. I mean, actuaries, our audience are, having to stay on top of these fast evolving risks that are coming out of the rapid digital advances that we're seeing. You've spoken quite a bit about AI being the next big thing. Is that the next big thing that they need to be focused on? Is that the next, big potential for risk for actuaries to be on top of?
I'm sure that actuaries are already thinking a lot about AI, um, particularly since 2023 when uh, or right at the end of 22 when ChatGPT was launched, because that was the first time that people um, were able to use AI directly. Huge implications for any kind of financial activity. Um, I would have thought actuaries were quite well placed to be thinking about this kind of at the forefront because, after all, risk is what AI is a risk-based method of working out how to do things or how to say things, and actuaries probably know more about it than most people do. Having said that, about keeping at the forefront, seeing what's around the corner. There's a very a nice quote from Alan Turing, who was the original kind of, in a way, the original inventor of artificial intelligence. And he used to say, "We can't see that far into the future, but we see plenty here that needs to be done." And I think that's an important thing to remember. I can't see very far into the future. Nobody really can. But I can see a lot of things we need to think about in terms of how AI is shaping the way we live, the way we learn, the way we work. Um, and we need to be kind of, well, from my perspective, we need to be studying that and understanding it and improve in shaping it, making it better, improving the impacts that AI will undoubtedly have on our social and economic systems.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people find the internet and its sheer vastness a little bit overwhelming. There's just so much out there, and actually quite a bit of social pressure to be on top of everything and understand and be aware of everything. So as an expert, can you just share with our audience how you stay on top of it all? And how if you've got any advice for our audience on how they can keep on top of such a fast moving area.
Obviously, it's a challenge, and I do sometimes think I ought to be trying to retrain as a historian or
Mm.
something because the pace of technological
Mm.
change is quite relentless. Having said that, a lot of processes and kind of organizational characteristics um, and human characteristics are quite enduring. So I mentioned that I wrote my PhD in the 1990s about large scale computer systems in government. And governments have always struggled with technological innovation. They've tended to lag hugely behind other organizations, and they've struggled to get the right kind of expertise to deal with technology. They've tended to have difficult relationships with computer services providers. Um, and a lot of the things I wrote about in my PhD are pretty relevant to today, with the challenges government has in adopting artificial intelligence and getting the benefits and meeting the challenges. A lot of it's about kind of capability. There's all sorts of possibilities there for greater efficiency and greater productivity and all these benefits that we're promised from new technology. But there's always a bit of a sort of jam tomorrow, to quote Alice in Wonderland, feel about it. And yeah, that's quite enduring.
Well, Helen, thank you for a brilliant talk through your role, the role of the internet in shaping the society that we have today, and indeed how it might shape our society moving forward. Thanks so much for your time. Well, thank you to Helen. That was very interesting, and I'm sure we're going to reflect on things when we use the internet ourselves today and beyond. And don't forget, you can read the interview with Helen in the November-December issue of the magazine, or indeed online at theactuary.com. Now, our second guest is in the studio, and it's actually Tom Kenny, who's here to talk to us about his interest in social care. Tom, good to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
It's great to be here, John.
It's good to have you. Look, you've been with Just Group approaching sort of 10 years now, and your current job title is Group Property and Credit Risk Director. Tell us a bit about your role and what you do day to day.
Yeah, so I moved into that role about 2 years ago, and it's really a risk role where I'm looking after our investment portfolio, making sure we understand the credit risks that we take, and property risk, funny enough. But really, the role that's got me into this subject that we're going to talk about today was when I was pricing and product development, kind of actuary, and running a team at Partnership, which was like the predecessor to this company. Okay, that's great. Look, you're also chair of the IFOA's Social Care Working Party, which released a UK survey report recently called Who Cares? What prompted you to commission that work with YouGov? So the Institute and Faculty of Actuaries do quite a few thought leadership pieces. Social care is one area where the IFOA has kind of a strong interest from a policy perspective. In the Working Party that I chair, we've been researching this area for a number of years. We thought that doing this research would help kind of start a conversation about awareness and just a general conversation about some of the things that need to change. So that's why we commissioned it.
And what were the main findings of the report? What were some of the key things to come out for you?
So I think there were two main things I would call out. One was around retirement. Care is just one part of retirement. There's a more fundamental problem with planning for retirement and people having not sufficient retirement money. Kind of, it's very complicated. So how do they get access to the right information and advice? And then there was another segment around, care planning. How do we get people to engage with it? It's like retirement, but even more complicated. And then there are other elements of it around just common misunderstanding around, is it similar to the NHS where it's free at the point of need? So that's a common misconception. And then, do you have to pay for it? Do you have to sell your home? Lots of these things people don't really understand because it's so complicated. So it kind of brings that to life in terms of key statistics that we were able to publish. You touched on it, that we are an ageing population. We are, like many countries, people aren't saving enough for their retirements. I think the report had a great statistic, a really interesting statistic in it, that 77% of people have not taken steps to prepare for their own long-term care needs. So with all of that being the case, what would you like to see happen? How do we fix this problem? So I think the first thing that needs to happen is a national campaign, make people aware of how the system works. Because the reality is that there are people in the population that can afford to make financial plans. They just don't know how. They don't know what's the best way to manage it. And I think that's, that shouldn't happen. They should be aware of how the system works. They should have access to the right information and advice. And it won't be the solution for everyone. There is a certain part of the population that just don't have the financial resources. And there's a safety net there already, and it works reasonably well. Should still be there in my opinion. It's just really a case of how do we make it possible for people that can put money aside to do that in a way that's effective for them. Yeah, and this is a long-term issue. It's going to take some time to fix it, I guess. Are there sort of things that you'd like to see happen in the short term versus things you'd like to see change in the longer term? Yeah. I mean, in the short term, I think it's definitely around that financial education. In the long term, it's going to take a while for people to actually put the money aside or take out insurance or whatever they choose to do. But I think that in the short term, that's it, the public awareness, because there usually what happens in a care situation is it's a loved one making a decision for their parent, and it's a moment of crisis. the mum or dad has had a fall, they're in hospital, and then they've got to find a care setting for them, and that's already very stressful. But it's also like what do they do? And there's so many different people giving them information and advice. I think it's extremely hard to navigate that system. So if we're able to make it clear earlier before people are in that state of crisis, they might be able to make more thoughtful decisions. And I think that would be, well, in my mind, I think that's got to be a better situation than where people are frantically trying to sort out finances for their loved ones.
Yeah, absolutely. With that sort of urgency and need for a knee-jerk reaction, is you're not making as informed decisions or well-planned for decisions, right?
Yeah, and I think that one of the other things it's the challenge with any insurance really, but in this situation is how long is my parent going to live in a care home? A common misconception is it's a very short time. And that's really a misunderstanding of averages, right? Like life expectancy is on average, people live in a residential setting for around 2 to 3 years, but there's a very large proportion of people that live way longer than that. So if you're thinking, I could buy an insurance product today, it's going to cost £150,000 for care home fees that are in the range of sort of £50,000 a year. They might think, well, that's not good value because it's only been a care home for 2 to 3 years. But, if you're actually looking at it and saying, well, there's a 30% chance that they could live for longer than 5 years, you might say, well, peace of mind, let me just buy that insurance and I don't have to worry about running out of money. But that kind of information isn't in the public domain. And I think that's another thing that we need to get the information out there, but then also put it in a form that people can understand. Like it's, fine, like actuaries will be able to get their heads around this quite easily, but, the vast majority of the population don't have that level of sophistication. Yeah. So how do we make it, kind of digestible? Yeah, and it comes back to your point about having a campaign or an awareness, helping raise awareness of the issue and the way to think about it, right? Yes. Awesome. And outside your day-to-day work, you've been volunteering in a variety of roles for the IFOA since 2016, almost a decade now. Yeah. Why do you do that? What do you get out of it? And what sort of volunteer roles have you been in? So I'd say like when I first got involved with it, it was more just an intellectual curiosity, really. I was like, oh, there's this Care Act coming into play, and what does that mean? And I was pricing care annuities at the time, so I thought, well, it'd be quite interesting. And then as I got more and more involved in it, I started to really get passionate about how can we try and help policymakers make more informed decisions, and the role of actuaries in that. So that went from being chair of the Social Care Working Party to being chair of the Next Release Mortgage Working Party. And I've been sort of doing other things along the way. I sit on the Life Board at the Institute of Faculty of Actuaries, trying to help the profession. I just like giving something back, really. Like I feel like my day job, I enjoy it, obviously, pays very well. But I get a kick out of trying to make a difference, and particularly on the social care side, that's kind of where I find it really rewarding. And I would love to see something actually happen in that space. It's been almost 10 years, as you say, hasn't really been anything that's changed, which is a bit frustrating. Yeah. But hopefully that'll change. That's a brilliant note to end on. And Tom, thanks so much for sharing a bit about your role, but also really your passion for finding a solution to a better social care outcome. Thanks so much for joining us. Thanks, John. Social care is clearly an important issue, and it's been great to hear all about the IFOA's research and indeed what you do. Our final guest today is Actuary Katrin Townsend, who's also here with me now in the studio. Katrin, brilliant to see you. Thanks so much for joining us.
I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, we're pleased about that. As always, let's kick off with a little bit about your current role and your background. So your background was in general insurance pricing, but you recently sort of changed tack a bit with your career, going into actuarial training as Director of Education at Price Writers. So why the switch? Tell us a bit about it, what you were doing and what you are doing now.
It sounds a bit mad to leave a very stable, planned out actuarial career to just become self-employed and start your own training company, especially for general insurance pricing teams. But it really didn't feel that much of a change on one hand for me, because I feel like all pricing managers or even senior analysts, if you've got people who are less experienced than you in your team, naturally you train them, you answer their questions, you go to other stakeholders and explain what you're doing. And so for me, extending that to kind of more formalized videos, a learning platform where people can access that any time of day, not just when you have 5 minutes and can fit it in, just felt like a really natural next step for me, and really built on all of the conversations that I'd had in my time as manager or senior.
So you sort of saw it as more of an extension of the role than a change of role.
Yeah, I really look at it as I'm here to make pricing professionals' jobs easier and to make that training more consistent, so people aren't getting differing information from different managers or whatever, but also for that to be accessible. We shouldn't just have to learn things by osmosis as we go. And I really like the on-demand nature of it as well. You don't want to have to wait until your manager's free or book in a time in 2 weeks' time, or even do a one-day training, what is it, once a quarter maybe, to get that knowledge. You should be able to, if your data's not joining, find out now, when just before you're about to throw your laptop out the window, right?
Yeah, it's really good. And what is it that you love about insurance pricing? I mean, why did you choose to go into that particular area of the actuarial profession?
I think, like most people, I didn't necessarily choose it. I kind of fell into it. I started in reserving. And then when a pricing team was being set up, I was asked to join it because I had a master's in statistical modelling. But I actually love it. And that's why I've stayed in pricing so long. And for me, it's because I'm a really bad passenger.
Right.
I'm really bad to be in the car with. I'm the backseat driver. And for me, that's the difference with pricing. I want to be the one driving, navigating, steering. And your pricing model is exactly how you do that. That's what really determines whether you accelerate hard into a new segment and write loads more business, or whether it's a firm break on some things and a sharp exit. So for me, I want to be the one making those proactive decisions, whereas reserving is really like looking out your rear view mirror all the time.
Right. And machine learning is obviously playing a really significant role in the pricing world now. And you delivered a workshop on that at the recent IFOA Gyro conference. What are the key issues for actuaries? What was the key messages from your workshop?
The key message from my workshop was about how important governance is for machine learning models, and how so frequently when we make price changes, generally, not just to machine learning models, but any kind of price change, we so often assume that the rest of our pricing system is going to remain static. And that's just not true. It means that we end up trying to push our change in quietly, try and minimize the disruption. And that's not how you get the pricing transformation that all teams are looking for right now. I think more generally, the concerns with machine learning modeling are that actuaries become so focused on predictive power of their models rather than explainability.
Right.
Stability and consistency for customers is a huge one. And deployability as well. Is it a practical model that we can do anything with, or is this just a great R&D idea that's going to stay on your desk? So like with any technology, we really should be thinking holistically about our models and not just be chasing after the shiny model that's really predictive but potentially really overfit.
No, that's a brilliant message. Not long ago, you won the Women in Insurance Actuary of the Year award, which is a pretty significant win. Congratulations on that. What did that mean to you, and what does it mean to you as a woman in the profession, I guess?
When I joined the profession, I didn't see that many people that looked like me or really were similar to me. I think when most of us think of actuaries, we think of people who are quiet behind the scenes, much happier almost being shut in a darkened room to solve a technical problem with their orange book than they are, out in the world and talking about their work and, wearing a suit. That's just not me. I'm chatty and I wear trainers to everything.
Yeah.
And I'm very practical. I'm really not that interested in the academically best solution if it doesn't make proper change. And I actually want to tell people about what I do and what it means for them and how they can get on board, whether that is students or underwriters or, to be honest, people I meet on the tube. So I really am not like that traditional actuarial person. And so for me, winning this award was not only just a validation for me that I belong here, but also that the industry is no longer that specific, I suppose, no longer only for that group. And that just a wonderful reflection that the actuarial profession is so much more diverse, not just in terms of men and women, but in terms of the way we approach things, how creative we can be, how quiet we can be, and a wonderful umbrella of personalities rather than the traditional.
No, that's brilliant. And surely the profession can only benefit from all those different types of diversity. So not just diversity meaning in the female sense here, but also in the type of people that we are and not conforming to those obvious stereotypes as well, right?
And the way we approach problems as well, whether you approach things from a very academic perspective or a very practical perspective, the way, if you don't have data, what do you do? Do you interpolate something? Do you go find another source? Or do you just really get to know your own product, for example? There's so many different ways of problem solving, and that's a really important actuarial skill. But when everyone has the same education, background, and personality type, it really limits us, and it really limits the impact we can have in our businesses, but also in wider society.
And just finally, look, we like to end with a quick. I mean, you've got a busy day-to-day job. You are, hosting sessions at conferences. You're hosting podcasts, and you're writing books. But outside of all of that, what do you get up to, and what do you enjoy doing to relax?
I'm a Squirrel Scout leader, so it's 4 to 5-year-old girls and boys, and I run the Squirrel Scout sessions every weekend. So that is something that I enjoy, sometimes find a bit crazy, but it really helps me break out of a very technical, very jargon-filled mindset, and just brings a lot of joy, and I love being outdoors as well.
Well, that's brilliant, Catherine. Thanks so much for joining us and talking about all those different things.
Thanks so much.
So a big thank you to all our guests this episode. We hope that you enjoyed listening as much as I enjoyed speaking to them, and do please remember to spread the word about our podcast series and subscribe on YouTube. Join us again next time. I look forward to seeing you then.